Hello, my name is Rose Riley, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of Washtenaw County. Welcome to our online candidate forum for the August 6th primary election. The League is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that promotes voter education and participation. And we host candidate forums to help voters make informed choices. Now, let's hear from the candidates.
Good evening. My name is Donna Snyder, and I will moderate the forum tonight. It is my honor to introduce the two candidates running for the Democratic primary for Scio Township Supervisor, John Boyle and Jillian Michele Kerry. Thank you, candidates, for participating in this forum. We are now ready for your opening statement, Mr. Boyle.
Okay, I got involved with the township because I started looking at the financials, and the township's costs over the last 10 years, as well as over the last 4 years, per person have gone up at 4 times the rate of inflation when incomes go up roughly at the rate of inflation. And it's not sustainable. Standard & Poor's agrees. They have downgraded the debt for the township. And the township, not only is it not sustainable, they have no financial reporting going on that's respectable. The financial report in the last board meeting is in this. It's 70 pages, and it basically is a general ledger dump. There's no real financial information there. So there's no real financial reporting. They don't have a finance staff. They don't have a chief financial officer that's trained in finance. So this is problem number one. Problem number two is the way the township is run. It appears to be dysfunctional. Problem number three is the subjects brought up with the board should be focused on financials and strategic issues and not 500 pages of other things.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Ms. Kerry, may we have your opening statement?
Good evening. Jillian Kerry. I am a Scio Township resident. I have been since 2011. I became involved with the township during the single hauler trash idea. And I did a little bit of research on that and started coming to meetings, and residents had come up to me asking me what if I could help them with their situations. There's different pockets in the township that had issues. I didn't know anything regarding local government, but ever since then, I think that was 2019, I have delved deep into helping residents. I have educated myself. I take a lot of classes through the Michigan Township Association, Michigan State University Extension. I have been heavily involved in looking into different issues within the township. I have 3 daughters and a granddaughter, and I'm also on the road advisory committee as the chair.
Thank you, Ms. Kerry. And now to the questions. I will start with Ms. Kerry. What are the primary roles and responsibilities of the supervisor position, and which do you consider to be the highest priority?
The first statutory duty would be it's the head of the assessing department. However, if a supervisor is not qualified to be the assessor, they are still the head of the department, but they have assessors that are certified under them. The supervisor is also the secretary of the board of review. They moderate all board meetings. They create the agenda. They supervisors retain the records of the supervisor office. They're also the legal agent of the township, meaning that any type of transactions or legal business, that is their responsibility by statute. They help develop the township budget, and they are responsible for the allocation of the board budget. A supervisor also appoints to the planning commission, the downtown district authority, and also the compensation commission. There's also as a board member, there's other statutory duties that as a trustee, but every board member would be voting on all matters, hopefully educating ourselves on what the matter is, and also fiduciary health of the township. A supervisor may call for special meetings. They are also the chair and not the chair, I'm sorry, the director and CEO of the Downtown Development Authority. The supervisor has an important role, but not as important as the clerk and the treasurer. However, they are what most people consider the head of the township or the representative of the township. So it is a pretty important role in itself. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kerry. Mr. Boyle, same question.
Well, adding to what Ms. Kerry said, I would suggest that the supervisor also is a key element in directing and setting the direction for the township and determining strategic issues, if for no other reason that he determines what is presented at the board meetings. And the supervisor also should be involved in financial, in transparency for the township. And I don't believe you can have transparency unless you have clear financial statements, income statements, balance sheets, cash flow statements, and those statements provide comparisons with prior periods and with budget. And I don't see those. And I don't believe there's any transparency. I also don't believe there's transparency when a board meeting has 500 pages, which nobody could possibly go through in a single evening. And there's no strategic direction that I can see in these 500 pages. And there are no financial reports that I would respect. So I think the supervisor, if we just go with the role of supervisor, has a very important job in overseeing the direction of the township, making sure that there's transparency, which I don't believe there is right now, and making sure that strategic issues are addressed. And I'm going to add that there's a risk management equation here, especially as regards the Gelman dioxane plume, and especially as regards the sewer to Ann Arbor, which is 40 years old. There's no risk analysis going on at the supervisor level, and the supervisor, I believe, should be overseeing that.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. And you have the next question, which is, I might as well just let you talk a little bit more about finances, you and Ms. Kerry. What improvements, if any, do you want to see in the township record keeping and financial operations?
Well, first of all, I believe that the financial statements should be understandable by the average voter. And you can't get good financial statements without a finance department. The financials are now being developed by Plant Moran, very expensive, and they have no institutional memory. You need financial statements that are developed by your own finance department, and your own finance department can do the reviews and the studies and develop the risk analyses that should go with managing the township, and that's not taking place. So number one is you got to have clear financial reports, and they need to be developed by your own finance organization. And if you have a project, the project should show, for example, the fire department. If the fire department wants additional millage, they should show what their financial statements are for the last 4 or 5 years and how the additional millage is going to be spent for the next 4 or 5 years, and should identify metrics that are going to be met. And that has not been the case in the presentations for the board for the last 4 years, and actually going back further than that.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Ms. Kerry, same question.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. What improvements, if any, do you want to see in the township record keeping and financial operations?
Thank you. Well, the first thing, if I was supervisor, would be that we, along with the board, a deep internal forensic audit going back at least 10 years. I believe that there's a lot of expenses that have been made that have not been, that should not have been. There's waste, and also there's fees and fines and different things in different departments that could be implemented, especially developer fees. Definitely internal controls. We have one department interfering with another department, statutory duties, and we need to separate for checks and balances to make sure that there is everything is being done properly. I would support the clerk and the treasurer for proper checks and balances for sure. Also, clean up the wasteful spending. I do believe that we spend a lot of money on contractors, and a lot of this has to do with the board not having the direction in order to hire the necessary staff. We should have an audit of our staff and our needs. And we really need to bring in more in-house employees that are qualified and professional to do the work. Doesn't mean that we would never rely on outside contractors, but we rely on them way too much at this point. Definitely review policies and procedures, and to make sure that they're being implemented fairly and consistently right across the township, internally in the township hall. I think we're at the end. No, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kerry. And the next question is for you.
Oh, okay.
Sort of similar theme. Part of the county-wide mental health and public safety millage is used by Washtenaw County to reduce the fee it charges to local governments, including Scio Township, for policing services. Do you support a renewal of this millage? Should the use of these millage funds be changed?
From what I understand, we had the sheriff contract come in front of the board. It comes in front of us, I believe, every year. I've only been on the board for 2 years, not even 2 years yet. So I'm learning a lot about the different contracts and whatnot. Excuse me.
All right. How about if I come back to you? Mr. Boyle, may I have your answer to that question?
Please repeat the question.
Sure, certainly. Part of the county-wide mental health and public safety millage is used by Washtenaw County to reduce the fee it charges to local governments, including Scio Township, for policing services. Do you support a renewal of this millage? Should the use of these millage funds be changed?
Well, I would support the millage, but I'm not, financial health has become a stepchild, not only in Washtenaw County, but in the entire country. And I don't believe it should be a stepchild. So if the money is designed to support mental health, and again, what that means should be clearly defined, that money should go towards mental health. Now, if they need subsidies for policing, that should be a separate issue. But I think we're mixing things that shouldn't be mixed. Mental health has fallen into disrepair in this country and in the state of Michigan, and it needs to be addressed. Now, as far as the millage goes, this millage, like every millage, should be shown in the context of a budget. Everything that's important should be shown in the context of a budget. And if additional millage is necessary, that can be shown. But when I say a budget, that means you've got 3 or 4 years going forward where you see exactly and precisely how the money is going to be spent. And you measure against that budget as you go forward every year. But yes, I believe mental health needs additional support in Washtenaw County, in the state, and for that matter, in the country.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Ms. Kerry, would you like to add anything to your previous answer to that question?
Yes, thank you. Excuse me. Regarding that mental health millage, yes, I agree. We have a deep issue with regarding mental health. From my understanding, the millage was supposed to be to help our sheriff department help those with mental health issues instead of just rushing in as a regular crime scene. So that is what was supposed to happen with the millage. I have not checked fully into the millage, but from what I understand that when the sheriff came to us to renew the contract is that part of that millage was to help lower the cost for the township regarding the contract, because it would take off some of the burden from us to help them with the mental health issues.
Thank you, Ms. Kerry. Mr. Boyle, what is the #1 infrastructure issue facing Scio Township?
The #1 infrastructure issue. Well, if I look at infrastructure, I look at a budget and I say, what is in that budget? The #1 issue, I believe, facing Scio Township is that its costs are going up at an unsustainable level. And it's affecting its bond rating, and it's going to affect its ability to survive eventually. You can't be going up at 4 times the rate at which incomes are going up. And I think in terms of the duties and the obligations of the township from A to Z, those cannot be sustained going up at 4 times the rate of inflation per person. And that absolutely has to be addressed. That's #1. And going back to the finance department, organizationally, there has to be a finance department that's looking at the costs, and there has to be cost controls, which Jillian brought up, and I'm going to reinforce that. But there needs to be a change in the way the board and the county operates. But structurally, I believe the #1 structural issue is the budget. It's not sustainable at its current rate of increase.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Ms. Kerry, what is the #1 infrastructure issue facing Scio Township?
Well, I do agree that our internal budget or finances must be addressed. Externally, the #1 infrastructure, well, there's actually 2 of them. We have our water system, water and sewer system that we have because of the Gelman plume, and it is along Jackson Road. Well, we're developing, which is normal for growth. However, we have a limited amount of REUs, which is the residential equivalent unit. And so whenever we have another big development coming in, it's eating away at that. Well, we have not, and I've said this before, to plan for more negotiations with Ann Arbor. That's where we get our municipal water. If we end up getting to the point where we have no more REUs and we have not negotiated more, we are going to end up expanding throughout the township, and we want to protect our rural with more developments that have on-site sewers. Those can have a lot of potential issues for the environment. So I am definitely in support of the infrastructure for our water and sewer. Our fire department is also lacking with the needs of our community. We need to expand our fire and emergency system for the welfare and the health of our community. So those would be my top 3, I guess: finances, water, sewer, and then the fire department. And it doesn't have to be all in that order. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kerry. And the next question is for you to begin again. You've both mentioned the Gelman plume. The state of Michigan proposes to reissue a permit to allow Gelman Sciences to discharge treated groundwater. Do you support the state's proposal? Why or why not?
I do support the state, the Eagle Environmental Department, to require a better cleanup of the contaminant regarding holding Gelman accountable. I do not believe that they should allow more dioxane to be pumped into Honey Creek. We have wells that are testing positive every year, and the faster it gets into our municipal water system, we're gonna and we don't have a way to remediate it. We're gonna be in real trouble. Now, the communities, Ann Arbor Township, the city of Ann Arbor, Scio Township, and Washtenaw County, they have petitioned the EPA the federal EPA for a super fund, and that is in process. So that is a very good thing. However, in the meantime, that's going to take a while to get to that point where they actually step in. But in the meantime, we have to prevent Gelman from dumping more dioxin into our drinking water, our wells. It's going to be a serious problem if we don't stop that as much as we can. It's already, as we know, has spread, and it's just spreading more and more. So yes, I do not believe that Gelman should be allowed to discharge anything anymore into our waterways.
Thank you, Ms. Kerry. Mr. Boyle, same question.
They're basically discharging poison into our waterways, and there seems to be a lot of discussion about the Superfund kicking in. Well, until the Superfund kicks in, Washtenaw County and Scio Township have to deal with the issues at hand. And I have yet to see an analysis which says, you know, when do the alarm bells go off? And if the alarm bells go off, what do we do? There's no risk analysis with regard to the Gelman plume. And tangentially, there's no risk analysis with regard to the 40-year-old sewer pipe. These are things where we should be looking at them on an ongoing basis and coming up with trigger points that tell us when we have a problem that needs to be addressed, and then talking about, based upon what the experts suggest, how we address it. I don't think we can wait until the problem is front and center.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. This next question is the last question for both of you. And Mr. Boyle, I'll start with you. What is your philosophy for listening and considering those you disagree with?
Well, it starts with listening. You know, if you disagree with them, you have to find out what the basis for the disagreement is. And this is a problem at the board meetings, collegiality, not only among the board members, but among the citizenry. There should be a code of conduct for the citizenry and the board member. And if I were involved in the process, that would be written up and enforced, because those meetings, you know, just about turn into routes sometime. But going back to disagreements, absolutely. First thing you have to do is listen. Second thing you have to do is base your argument on facts and figures. And that's exactly what I do in life. And if you have a problem, go to the facts, go to the figures, go to the priorities that the township has, and make your decisions based upon that, not the fact that you have a difference of opinion.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Ms. Kerry, same question.
Regarding disagreements, and I do agree that we all have disagreements. We may not be on the same page. However, there should be a modicum of respect. Maybe we think that somebody's disagreeing with us, but they are saying the same thing in a different way. So listening is very important. And the second thing that I do all the time is I ask questions. When something comes up or somebody's having a conversation with me, I want to know where they're coming from. So I ask them questions. To avoid assumptions, we need to ask questions. If there's an issue or a red flag in the township, we need to ask questions before jumping to conclusions and just jumping to attack somebody. Regarding board meetings, that falls on the supervisor, and the supervisor, and I do agree with Mr. Boyle, that the supervisor does set the tone for the township. We are a public sector. We are ruled by the state of Michigan and government laws. There are laws in place for us to run a meeting. Now, residents, in the past 6 years, from what I've noticed, that when residents are upset, that's when we hear from them. When they are in agreement or they feel they can trust their board members, their local government, they don't show up to meetings. I run the road advisory meeting committee. I'm the chair, and we hardly have anybody show up, and every once in a while they will, and we embrace them. And also, they've recently come to our meetings to say, this is amazing how well you work together. And of course, we do disagree, but then we come to a middle consensus, because that's what we're there to do, is serve the public. It's not about our personal agendas. So there is a way to create a solution no matter what the disagreement is. That is, if both people or parties involved are willing to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Kerry. And now it's time for closing statements. We'll begin with Mr. Boyle.
Well, again, I think the township is close to dysfunctional. First of all, there needs to be collegiality built into the relationships among the board members and the relationships between the board and the citizenry, especially those that attend the meetings. Secondly, the finances need to be addressed and financial controls need to be put in place. And I agree 100% that there should be forensic audits going back. I would only go back 3 or 4 years. But there needs to be financial controls, and the rate of cost increase has to go down. And when you put in a millage increase for the fire department, I agree, and the fire department has incurred some costs. They're going to have to figure out how to pay for them. That is important, but you need, going forward, you need pro forma budgets. You need pro forma financial statements that say exactly how these things that are being committed to are going to be paid for and what that means. And if the cost is going up substantially more than the incomes for the citizenry, that's going to be a problem. And it's going to result in further degradation from Standard & Poor's in the bond rating. So fiscal responsibility needs to be installed at a serious level in Scio Township.
Ms. Kerry, may we have your closing statement?
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. This has been wonderful again. Yeah, so, I was thinking about earlier about my priorities if I am supervisor, and the number one priority will always be residents. That's why we have local government. We collect their tax money, and then we are supposed to be responsible with that tax money. We're there to make a community that they want to live in regarding health, welfare, and well-being. So that is my my top priority. After that, definitely the finances. We definitely need to straighten up our finances, internal controls and whatnot, clean up the spending, review policies and procedures. And here, I'm big into education. I am always taking classes with the Michigan Township Association, with the MSU. I'm studying everything that comes across in my view, and I read statutes, and I want to make sure that when I make a decision that I do it based on the law and that it is for the benefit of the township as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you both for participating in this valuable session.
The League thanks the candidates and volunteers who participated in today's forum and the community members who submitted questions. Please urge others to view our forums. Most importantly, please vote in the August 6th primary election, whether by absentee ballot or in person.